June 1994, the rogue comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 approached Jupiter. As it did, observers on Earth soon realised it was on a collision course. But what it did next was totally unexpected. It split into 23 sections, and one by one these flash impacted on the surface of the mighty Jupiter. Each flash devastated area was the size of Earth. For the first time, modern man had witnessed a comet collide with a planet. Had mankind witnessed just such an event in the past? Could it happen to Earth in the future? In ancient times, Jupiter was known as Baal. Could this planet have been involved in the mysteries of Baalbek? All around the world, I investigate ancient cataclysmic destructions to reveal the nature of the catastrophic events that shaped our civilizations. Hi, I'm Peter Mungo Jupp. Welcome to Ancient Destructions. Now, around the world, archaeology is a hotbed of mystery. Whether you go to South America, Africa, the Syrian plains, you find abandoned civilizations, civilizations buried under rubble, sometimes many layers thick of stratigraphy. You've got to ask yourself, what happened to these civilizations? Why were they abandoned? Now, some say tsunamis, perhaps volcanoes, massive continent-wide earthquakes. Harvey Weiss, the eminent archaeologist working in Syria, believes that rapid climate change and dramatic weather caused the abandonment of civilizations. Even comets and meteorites are mentioned. Certainly with the demise of the dinosaurs, this has been blamed. But what about in later arenas? Perhaps 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. Did something like this happen on a smaller scale? Certainly we don't see it today. Now we're going to take a fresh look at archaeology and we're going to find out what happened. Why did these people disappear? We're going to talk to the people that actually live there today. We're going to look at their legends. Now, legends are mainly ignored by modern archaeologists. Jason the Argonauts, the Trojan Wars, even the writings of the old historian Herodotus are generally ignored. But I believe they hold the bones of truth. Today we're going to Lebanon to visit one of the scenes of these ancient destructions. We're going to Baalbek, city of the thunder gods. We're going down the Red Sea, past Egypt, up the Gulf of Aqaba, through Israel to Lebanon. And there awaits Baalbek, the Acropolis of the thunder gods.
They've always had the Mediterranean economy with its olive oil, wine. What about the warfare, known from the times of King Solomon and before, through to the Romans, the Byzantines, up to the latter day, where even now warfare seems to be a way of life.
Very good.
Have they always meandered through these bazaars with its lively chatter and smell of sweet spices? Its history is both fascinating and chaotic. David Roberts, the Scottish artist, arrived here in 1854 after painting the ruins of Egypt and the Holy Land. He was staggered by the mystery of these immense shattered ruins. The Bedouin tribesmen who camped amongst the ruins also pondered over its mysteries. Idrisi, the Arab geographer, claims it was built by giants under the legendary King Nimrod after the Deucalion flood. Other mythology talks about King Solomon, even genies.
In the Bible is written that the King Solomon asked the king of Tyre to send him architects and cedar trees to build his own temple. Here we think also that the most of the workers and the architects were even local, so they are originally Phoenicians. That's why this is the connection between the two temples. Plus that we have also some of the theory, the famous theory of the Masons. They said that these temples were built by the first Masons who built the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem.
The Acropolis site of Baalbek is fascinating. Humans have lived around Baalbek for at least 4,000 years. The site was built and rebuilt using very advanced techniques. Let's look at the temple site in more detail. Now look at these amazing limestone blocks. Look at the joints. You can't put a razor blade between those joints. They're staggering. How they did that, I wouldn't have a clue. And look at this rock. Dead flat for about 8 metres. That's incredible workmanship. Here is the magnificent Temple of Bacchus. The roof structure is absolutely beautiful, and look at this intricate carving. They say it's the finest example of the Roman Empire. But is it all Roman? Now look at this at the Temple of Bacchus. We have these huge blocks, and I can't even slip the wedge between these joints, and yet they're huge and vast and stretch for at least 90 metres each side. But if you think the podium at the Temple of Bacchus is big, look behind me at the Temple of Jupiter. It's even larger. Look at the size of these columns. They're massive. They're 22 metres tall, 2.5 metres across the base, and on top a 5-metre header cut into sections and locked in to prevent earthquake damage.
Here we have the part of the column that's 2.5 meters diameter and the 3 holes to join the columns together. And we have an example of the copper sleeves used.
Originally, there were 54 of these columns. Today, there is only 6 left. That's damage demonstrating the power of nature. Now this is a part of the Temple of Baalbek called the Trilithon. It consists of 3 huge blocks. Each one of the Trilithon blocks is around about 22 metres long. How they got these blocks from a quarry probably a kilometre away up to here is a mystery. It's just incredible. Who could have moved and carved these massive blocks? Were they the mythical race of giants under King Nimrod, who have faded into obscurity? The remains of these huge base stones were used by later civilizations to rebuild Baalbek. And here we are at the quarry in Baalbek, and look at this monster. This is one of the largest blocks in the world, and over the road is one that's even longer, 22 metres in fact. But look at the depth of this one, and look at the bedrock where it was quarried out of. Precise lines of cut with steel, we're not sure. Oh wow, this is detached. It's above the ground, it's not actually part of the ground. That means it's been moved. And look at this spur that's been cut out from the rock face so that it sits above the ground. It's incredible. This is the largest block in the world. It's colossal. Look at that, 4.5 metres high. 25 metres long, weighs over 1,000 tonnes. How would you move this block? Perfect cuts, flat. So how was this 1,000-tonne monster moved? It's over 1 kilometre of Baalbek, over rough terrain. Now some say rollers. Certainly in the case of the Egyptian pyramids, we had 15-tonne blocks, not 1,000-tonne blocks. They could have been moved by rollers, but this monster, I don't think so. Rollers would have been crushed, might have taken up to 10,000 people to drag it along. It's a mystery. Here is where the answer lies. Today, with our great technical ability, we could barely lift this block where it lays, let alone move it 1 kilometre along the road and then place it 4 metres above the ground in a citadel. However, if it weighed less, the problem becomes simpler. There are many signs that in earlier eras the strength of gravity was much less. In an electric universe, gravity is dramatically affected by differing electromagnetic forces. To my mind, the existence of giant animals or megafauna strongly suggests DNA adapting to this variable electromagnetic climate. In other words, prior to the disruption of the solar system, these blocks were much lighter. Our second answer is highly conjectural. The remarkable technical ability of Baalbek's mythological builders, the genie, particularly when we observe the precision of these joints, shows an ability to alter the weight of these blocks. Now there's grounds for a good argument. However, I suspect a clever blend of these two contentions provides the real answer. The mystery of who originally built Baalbek will probably never be known. But an even greater mystery is what destroyed this place. The devastation of this necropolis shows us that an extremely destructive force left its mark here. Recorded history from Roman times relates that Baalbek was devastated by earthquakes many times. One in 570 AD, 3 more in Crusader times around 1100 AD, further one in 1759 AD when Baalbek was abandoned by the Turkish garrison. The last earthquake was in 1870 AD when 3 more massive columns collapsed. The damage of Baalbek is not only due to earthquakes. There is deposition of rubble, till and clay over its body. When Roberts reached Baalbek, he portrayed a site partially obscured by rubble. In this regard, it's like the Egyptian monuments, most of which were buried by sand. Even today we can see the previous level of the rubble at the Temple of Bacchus. Above that there's graffiti, below it there's none whatsoever. This indicates 10 metres of rubble buried this wall. It was the German archaeologist under Wilhelm II who first revealed the depth of the damage. This was certainly not placed by the occupiers, so what agent caused it to be dumped over and beyond the entire huge megalithic site? In nearby Byblos, some 70 kilometres away, we again see Phoenician sites buried under many metres of rubble. In fact, a tsunami in around 500 AD ravaged the whole of the Lebanese coastline, burying Beirut, Byblos and other cities. This was accompanied by extremely destructive earthquakes. But this was merely the last of a devastating series that have ravaged this area. In the close of the early Bronze Age, Harvey Weiss noticed extreme flooding in the local Syrian rivers despite drought and winds that persisted for some 3 centuries. Erratic and chaotic weather conditions led to unusual flooding and earth deposits. Rubble and muck may have been washed down from the Lebanese mountain range that Baalbek nestles under. Let me introduce you to the remarkable French archaeologist Claude Schaefer. He excavated both Encomian Cyprus and Ugarit along the Syrian coastline. What amazed him was that of 6 civilizations laid down, each was separated by a vast destruction layer, up to 30 metres of ash. What could have caused this massive damage? Certainly no conquering horde would have left such fearful devastation. Schaefer believed that warfare and politics had little overall effect when compared to the chaotic whims of nature. These affairs of mankind were but mere trifles when compared to nature's dramatic and deadly cataclysms. Schaefer saw these events as the cause of race movements. It clearly explained the theme behind the collapse of nations. It was the cause of subsequent dark ages when mankind lost the ability to write and cooperate in complex societies. Schaefer observed that in 1956, Santorini, a small island off the coastline of Greece, had erupted. But what fascinated him more was that nearly 3,000 years ago, possibly around 1500 BC, Santorini had blasted apart, but on that occasion it spread ash across the whole of the Mediterranean, even as far as Egypt, thousands of kilometres away. In fact, some people believe that ended the Middle Kingdom in Egypt. These were incredible events, and the event of today was nothing compared to them. Schaefer struggled to explain why these early events were so huge. Observation of modern earthquakes and volcanoes only offered a partial explanation. According to classical sources, such as the historian Pliny, ancient earthquakes were far more numerous. During the Punic Wars of 217 BC between Rome and Carthage, 57 earthquakes were recorded in Rome in 1 year alone. Let's take a closer look at the layers of dirt of the quarry site. Stratigraphy analysis may reveal what happened here. And look at this compact layer here. It's about 300 millimetres thick. Rolled, broken sandstone, then some muddy stuff. And look, another slightly less thick layer, but bits of limestone in it. And then more mud. What's it all mean? Can't see anything living in this. It's obviously been washed down in some sort of event. So what happened here? Swift deposition or slow deposition? These are one of the things we've got to think about. Look at that. This evidence shows that rapid deposition took place here. And on top of this, there's 2 distinct charcoal layers at the site, indicating that some sort of fiery destruction took place. But Schaefer looked at over 200 archaeological sites in the Middle East. Each site contained 5 destruction layers, each layer containing a dead civilization. He struggled to find the causative agent, the mechanism behind this. But there was a man who, with his new scientific theories, could. Who was this genius who could explain the destruction of early civilizations? Let me introduce you to Emanuel Velikovsky. His electric universe saw the use of cosmic thunderbolts as the weapon of choice of the mythological planetary gods. So does this all sound too bizarre? Well, wait for the first scientific explanation of mythology. You'll be very surprised.